Hello, welcome back to Noob Aquatics, and today we got a maintenance video for you. I don't see a lot of these on the internet there or on YouTube, mainly because people think maintenance is a grueling task. Well, I agree, it is, but it has to be done. So, what are some things that we do here for maintenance? And that's what we're going to show you. Some recommendations that we have, some things we learn. One of the things that we will go over here is which tubing or which gravel vac to use, because there are a lot of them out there, and all depends on your needs, really. And then how we actually take care of maintenance. So today we're going to do maintenance on 3 of our tanks. All right, I'm only going to show you the one because, of course, we don't want you to sit there for hours just watching me pull water out and stuff. But we will show you one tank here today, and the tank's going to be our Aquarium tank. So that's here the baby Aquarium grow out tank, which is full of plants. So today the goal is to clean the glass. So you're going to need one of these, which is a glass scraper. All right, you're going to need buckets. Okay, so I got 2 5-gallon buckets. You can get these for about $4 to $5 from Lowe's or Home Depot. If you like blue, then Lowe's. If you like orange, then Home Depot. It doesn't really matter. We opted in for a little bit more expensive buckets because we wanted to get the ones that were food safe. We did that for a reason, because we don't want any chemicals or anything nasty going into our water. So that's what we recommend there. And then, if my wife will bring it over, you're going to need yourself a gravel vac. Now the reason why we use this one, this is a 1-inch gravel vac. Okay. Now this gravel vac here, this is a Python gravel vac, and this is actually cut. So you see, I don't know if you see, it's really short. I'll hold that. So if you see this, it's really short. You'll see it's my hand length. Why? Because this thing was, I don't know, probably 1.5 feet, almost whatever. It was really long. So I took a saw, cut it off, and there's a reason for that. The 1-inch tubing, when you put it into a tank, you can gravel vac at a longer rate and get more stuff without sucking up too much substrate or getting rid of too much water too quick. So that's the problem with most of today's gravel vacs, is that the end is 2 inches. All right, it's huge, so you have to go a longer distance so that it gets to this tube, so it goes into the the bucket. The tubing that's attached to it is much thicker as well. And you end up, gravel vacuuming, you get through there, and you're about 1/4 of the way through, and you look at your tank, and it's already almost empty of water. So that's the problem when you got smaller tanks. So look for the ones that have the 1-inch tube, and if it's super long, I mean, just cut it off. I mean, just cut it right down the center, smooth out the end with some sandpaper, and that'll make gravel vacuuming these smaller tanks a much easier process. So one other thing you'll want to do is get yourself a clamp. That way, if you're by yourself, you just take the end of this tube, and you'll see down here. All right, take the clamp that you got, and you're just going to clamp it on the side of the bucket. All right, you want to get a strong clamp, of course, because you're going to be moving this thing around all over the place. All right, so that the clamp stays there. Will you make mistakes and spill water in different places? Yeah, of course, you probably will. But that'll happen. You get water all over the floor, all over yourself. Be prepared to actually make a mess or two. So yeah, so that's what you do here. Okay. So next step is, like I said, is to clean your glass. So you got this ready. You got your buckets ready. You got one of your buckets here already treated with Prime or Fritz Complete, whichever one you use, whatever dechlorinator. We use both, whichever's cheaper at the time. They're essentially the same. Fritz Complete does neutralize a little bit more on the the heavy metals and stuff like that, but it really doesn't matter. They are both essentially the same thing. So you got your buckets ready. So now you're going to take this and you're going to clean your glass. So you hold on to this side here. You're going to put this one in, and don't just slam it against the glass, because you may end up breaking your glass. You're going to come in at an angle. You see here, coming at an angle slowly. That way it doesn't slam against the glass. Go down, get it all wet. I like to do the top first. Rotate it. You want to go slow because if you don't, then it'll come disconnected. Okay? So you'll see here it has the lip. I like to go up there and bring that lip to the top so that it gets a little bit on this top part right here. Okay? Bring it down. So now I'm going to do over here where the plants are. And this little lip is rounded. It's rounded because of the corners in here, the corners with the silicone. You want to bring it over to those corners and then scrub the silicone. And that'll extend the life of your silicone. And then back and forth on the glass. Pretty easy stuff. You know, go here, clean the glass here, back and forth, and you see the fish are freaking out, but even though we do this every week, they still do it, still freak out. So be used to that. The fish are going to freak out on you. They will eventually get used to it, but you know, we sell these fish, so the chances that they'll get completely used to it before they leave, not the greatest. So you'll want to move stuff around. Alright, that way you're not just, you know, cleaning just one area. You want to make sure you clean under the areas where these things are at too. So move them back over, move this over here. Alright, once you get that done, you can put these, if you use them, back to where they go. And finish cleaning your glass. Alright, now that's all we do is the front glass. You can clean the side glasses if you want as well. That's more work. But we really, all we do is we clean the front glass. There's a reason, it's because we got snails in here, and if they want to eat and some algae builds up over here, well, they got something to eat. The one part of the glass we never clean is the back here. Some people do. I don't. I don't clean the back in any of my tanks, and that's mainly because that'll build up the most algae, and that becomes a food source. If you have babies in there, baby fish, baby shrimp, that becomes a food source for them. And it gives them something to eat as well. So I recommend never cleaning the back glass unless you are just that much of a OCD person and you just want to clean it. You can do that, but I don't ever do it. It's not necessary. So you take this out. Always have a towel available, so we just keep them on the ground here. I just wipe this off on the towel, stick it back together, throw it to the side. Towels, 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 lots of towels, and go buy cheap ones. That way you're not ruining your nice towels, or your wife doesn't get mad because you use one of the beach towels or something. Mine didn't, but you never know. Your wife might. So next, this is what people have a problem with. So see, they stick it in here and they're like, it's not draining any of the water, what's going on? So they fill it up with water. Alright, fill it up with water, and then they're like, okay, well, it's still not draining, what do I do? Now, I believe Corey on Aquarium Co-op has a video of this, but this is something that I learned on my own a long time ago. You fill it with water, pull it out, clamp the end right here, fill it with water again, pull it out, clamp the end. What you're doing is you're filling the tube with water. Once you get that done, you're going to fill it with water, straighten it out. Always hold on to the tube, and as you can see, you'll see that the water is draining now. Okay? So that's how you get it started, the easiest way. Now if you have something above it and you can't pull it out, you probably want to rethink where you have your tanks. So you just start here, you just start in the end, and you see here that all you do is just clean the gravel. Now you can do a deep cleaning, there's a way to do that as well. Alright, always have your hand on here. You'll see the reason is because you're going to want to just get the dirty stuff out of there. Okay. And you just clean the gravel. And you'll see this right here is what allows, by squeezing it, allows you to get that gravel out of the tube and only the dirty stuff in there. Now I like to do a few things here. I like to put some water into the buckets first, and I'll explain why. just do this, just drop that back down. The fish are now like, what's he doing? Oh, he's just cleaning. See, they don't mind. Alright, now all I'm doing is cleaning this top layer of the thing, and if you just get to this point here and you want to get it out, and you're like, oh, well, look, all my sand's all messed up, squeeze it, come back over here, and just like a Zen garden, you know, just straighten out your sand. It's not that hard. Alright, see, sand straightened out. So, and you just do that all the way across the tank. I always like to do it at an angle here. Alright, because the angle will allow me to move through the sand and try to get the particles. And a lot of times if you do it at the right angle, you don't have to squeeze the tube. Okay, squeezing the tube, getting it over. I'm only going to do half the tank here. Okay. Alright, let it go through, and then go back and straighten out your sand. Okay, now the next step, I always take a double clamp of the thing here. You can just let it float in the water. Gonna move this out of the way. Okay, move this over here. Alright, and I'm gonna get the back wall. Alright, now I'm going to get the back wall. So, you may have to look through or look around. Cars need to move. You're going to do the same thing. There's the assassin snail in there. There's 6 assassin snails in here as well. But they have plenty of regular snails to eat. Plenty of them. Your cars really like getting underneath that heater back there. So what I'm going to do for them here, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to dig a hole under the heater for them. They seem to like to use that as an escape tunnel. There we go. I'm sure they'll enjoy that. I just made the Acaras an escape tunnel. In the back under the heater. Mm-hmm. Alright, so now I got some water in there. Alright. And I'm going to get whatever's in the tube out. Now the easiest way to do that is to pull it out facing up with the opening up. And whenever you have your water in, you're just going to let go. Alright, all the way down. Let it go all the way to the bucket. Okay? When you're done with that, the best thing to do is just let it hang over the side of the bucket or put it on a towel. So the next step, alright, people are like, turn your air off. No, I don't really have to turn my air off. You grab these, pull them out, alright, leave the air on, that way it doesn't backflow water down to your tube. Alright, and just pull this out and I drop it into the water. Now, when you do this, you're going to clean this directly in the tank water. Never use sink water or dechlorinated water, so don't use the clean stuff. Use the water you're pulling from the tank. There's a reason. If you use any other water, you're probably going to kill all of your nitrifying bacteria, and that will be bad for your fish when you put it back in there and your cycle has to start all over. So don't do that. So this one here is my homemade filter. I'm basically just taking it in there and just squeezing it like this. Alright. Here in 2 more weeks I will pull these off, replace the filter pads, and this media can be used in any other tank, but this is not my main filter. This is just a homemade one to clarify the water a little better, because in tanks that have only sponge filters, I'm going to tell you right now, you're probably going to have a cloudy issue every now and then. Sponge filters are not the best at removing cloudiness. Alright. When you're done with that, you see no dripping. Pull this out, make sure no snails are blocking it. Connect it back, and just put it right back in there. And there you go, that filter's clean. Now with this one back here, this one's a little different, a little bigger. All right, it creates quite a bit of mess if you pull it out. All right, so you have to be really careful. Now Corey says take a big bag, put it in there, put the big bag in the tank, and then put this in the bag. That's just a lot of work, Corey. Sorry. If you go slow, you also can achieve the same results. So what do I mean? So you take this out so there's no air going to it, and you'll see I'll need to wipe that off with a paper towel. But leave the air in the tank. That way, you know, you always have your fish taken care of. And then this, with slow precision, you're just going to slowly take it out of the tank. And I mean slow, otherwise you're going to see all sorts of nastiness. Now there's still going to be a little bit, but the slower you go, the less you have. Once you get the sponge filter itself out of the tank, then you can go as fast as you want. Now if you look in there, you'll see all the particles, okay? If I would just grab that, pulled it straight out of the tank, this whole tank would be filled with that. And that's why I do it now, is because I'm still going to remove water. I don't wait till the very end to pull that out. I do it now, put it directly into the water. That way it's always, you know, saving the nitrifying bacteria, and I don't have to worry about that dying off. So you see this this tank has a ton of floating plants in here. So that's why I did one half of the tank first. Now I'm just going to take my hand and I am just going to move all the floating plants to the other side. Literally all of them to the other side. Alright. Same thing with all of this. So this right here, these are my, you know, additional things that I keep in here that are pre-filtered media. I'm just going to put them in here, give them a few good squeezes. Alright. That way they're always ready to go and clean whenever I put them into a new tank. And just drop it in. Take this one here, get the snails off of it, of course. Same thing. Clean it off. Drop it in. Get out of there, car. Don't want to take you with me. Anything here. Clean it off. Squeeze it out. Drop it in. Okay? Now, on this tank here, I have Java moss growing out, and you'll see all this right here. There's a lot of Java moss. Java moss, really good stuff. You put it in a tank where it grows really well, then it's going to do you some good in other tanks. Alright, so now we're here. We got all the plants out of the way. Now we're going to do the same thing. Clean the sand. Close it off. Fill it up. Same thing, you'll see it's moving faster. That means it's ready to go. And I'm just going to come in here and just clean the sand. Same way I clean the other side. This side has a lot more snails, so you may have to, you know, get everything out of there a little bit more. And there's one of the assassins. Let me get him out of there so he's not all like, you know, on a carnival ride in there. So you'll see if you do a deep dive, and I'll show you what I mean by a deep cleaning. If you take it and you just stick it in here like Corey shows you, and then do this a few times, you can get all the way down. Now I don't recommend doing that all the time. Once a month maybe, or once every quarter. That's up to you. It all depends. If you don't have any plants in your tank, then you can do it a lot more often. But just know that the bacteria that's in your substrate is bacteria that actually helps, you know, to destroy any detritus or anything like that. And I can't remember the names of them, but even Fritz sells that bacteria. So if you think you have an overstocked tank, all right, there's this stuff, which I'll show you here in the end whenever I get done, that you can add to your tank, which helps, you know, increase the bacteria that you have in your substrate. Okay, now it's clogged. So why is it clogged? It's because there's a snail shell in there. Alright, so now it's clogged. Why? Well, like I said, I do have assassin snails in here. So if you have a pair of long tweezers, okay, I have one of the shells stuck in here from, being empty. You just take this, squeeze it together, and you're going to push it right in there and just push that shell right through. Okay? When you push it right through, clears out the clog, and then you just start right back over. Pretty quick. So when you have assassin snails and empty shells in there, they tend to float up to the top a lot easier than live shells. Doesn't mean the live ones won't either, but if you don't mind in crushing a live snail, then yeah, you're gonna have that happen too. Another shell, clear shells. Okay, there's some more Java moss in this back corner. What? Are you pointing at something, buddy?
Just now.
Oh yeah, there's lots of snails in there, aren't there? That's why we got the assassin snails, to help control the population. Bless you, whoever sneezed.
Thank you.
Alright, so now what do you do? When you got all the sand clean, you can go through and you can, do what I said and make it back and look nice again. Make it all flat if you want. Okay? But you see, this side is the most tore up, I guess you can say. All I do is I sit here and I reach and try to get as much stuff out of the water as I can that's floating. You're not going to get it all, so look for the ones that look like they're dead. Alright? Some of this stuff is just live Java moss in pieces in here, and then of course a lot of stuff is just dead pine needles from the hornwort. So if you don't want, I don't recommend hornwort. It's a great plant, grows fast, but the reason is because the needles fall off all the time and they are messy. So learn that the hard way. So if you don't want needles all over your tank, all up in your filter, don't get hornwort. So now it's just pretty much a catching game. You just go through there and try to catch as much dead leaves as you can get before they fall back down to the substrate and settle in, because they will. And then you want to, make sure you monitor your water so you don't overflow the water. I've gotten pretty close a few times because I was so, caught up in, cleaning out the tank here that I forgot to watch, and the bucket was about to overflow. So, but remember, the reason why I choose these smaller mouths, gravel vacs is because you can spend a lot more time, on your tank without losing half of your water in just a few seconds. Now, if you're only doing a water change, then yeah, use the larger ones. But if you're cleaning the substrate, use the smaller one. That way you have a longer time to clean it. You can get more detailed at it, and it's happy. And your fish are much happier afterwards when they have a cleaner tank. So, because the joy about being in the fish hobby here is that you're doing it to take care of your fish. You're not doing it to make a profit. You're not doing it to, you know, make it a business. I mean, it can be a business, but you start off first as a fish hobbyist before it becomes a business. So that's what I recommend. Make sure you enjoy what you do before you try to sell what you do. Otherwise, it could become, you know, a job. And whenever it becomes a job, people tend to hate their job. So always make sure that it's a hobby, not a job. If you make some money along the way, then so be it. There we go. Had a little bitty baby Aquarium down there. That one not growing out. Maybe when we sell some of his brothers and sisters there, it'll start growing a little bit faster because they'll actually be able to get more of the food. By the way, the electric blue Aquariums and the true blue Aquariums, which are in here, they're at 1 inch. They are ready to go, so they are available now on our website and on eBay if you want them. They look beautiful. They have great blues on the electric blue colors. A bunch of them right here. Some of them are really dark. The mother was very, very dark with the blacks, and very, very shiny with the blues.
It's hard to see, and there's a glare.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. And then the regular true blues, they have some excellent blue sparkles on them and show some great black. So you got one right here, which is hard to see.
Yeah.
He is just beautiful. All right, so that would be it on this tank here. So that'd be it on this tank here. So when you're done, like I said, you're just gonna pull it straight out with pointing up, point it down into the bucket, drain all your water. Okay, now this is where you remove this. All right, but before you do though, keep both ends pointed in the bucket, straighten out the tube because I'm pretty sure there's more water in there. Get as much water as you can out. Leave this end on the towel. Now, the last part here would be to clean the last filter. Now this is the one where I'm going to pull it out. You'll see I got some snails in here. These are food for the assassin snails, so I'll just throw them back. Okay. First things first, this, really easy. Dig it in the water, shake it. Shake it. If you don't want an overpopulation of snail, just know that this is most of the time where they lay their eggs. You'll see right here, here's some snail eggs. Alright, snail eggs there. You're just going to take your finger, rub it right over the eggs. Okay? And just do that, just get rid of some of those eggs. That way, you know, even you as a, you know, owner of these tanks can control the population of snails. Just get rid of their babies. Alright, now this one, let's take this, set it aside. Now this is the important part. That's enough, YouTube. Jace, Maley, that's enough. Alright, this is the important part. This is where all of your nitrifying bacteria is. Okay? This is why you do not want to, you know, destroy it in, you know, dechlorinated tap water. This, you're just going to take in there, get it soaked, squeeze it. Soak, squeeze it. Soak, squeeze it. And I rotate it in my hand at the same time. Kids, stop arguing on the couch. You're going to rotate it in your hands at the same time. Alright, get along. Or you're going to have to just go to your separate rooms and play, okay? Just do that, and I do it several times until it feels like I'm not squeezing out any more detritus. By the way, Corey from Aquarium Co-op, I love your sponge filters. The coarseness in here, great. Reason why is because these right here, when I clean those out after a week in these grow out tanks, it feels like I'm squeezing snot. It's gross. These, not so much. They clean a lot easier. So yeah, thank you very much for making these. They are great. I recommend these. Now, what? Do I need the toothbrush? No? No? Why? No, it'll scrub that. That's even got nitrifying bacteria on it. Alright, so now, you know, you're done with this. You're just going to put it back. Okay? I'm going to put it right over here for now. paper towels. So, got some paper towels here. There's a reason. So that right there is what houses the nitrifying bacteria. This just gets all gunked up sometimes. I'm just going to take a paper towel, alright, and ungunk it. That way, you know, that's all I'm going to do. Yes, it removes some of the nitrifying bacteria, I understand, but I'm not 100% too worried, because the more clogged, the more that this gets gunked up, the better chance this has at getting clogged. So that's just one step I do, and it's just the tubing right here so that it doesn't prevent the air or clogging from going in there. So, alright, that's pretty much it there. Throw that on the ground. Okay, now I can connect these back. Okay, move the plants back. Take my hand, just push them back over. Back into their nice sun over there. $10 sunlight from Amazon. Put this back into the tank. Okay. I'm going to throw their hiding spots back over there as well. The fish like to hide in these things. I think it's really funny. I may leave them over here so we can see them hiding in there. Okay. And that's how you clean. Alright. So that's the maintenance. Dry your hands off. Now, pro tip here. This water right here, this is fertilizer. Fertilizer for what? For houseplants. Alright? Houseplants all over. Will you get me a cup over there, buddy? So before you dump this, alright? Before you dump this, if you have houseplants, you're going to just take this, get yourself a cup of water, pour it right in your tank, right into your flower pot. That right there is how you can make sure that your plants are getting nutrients. I mean, there's nitrogen in there, poop, all sorts of stuff. So ammonia, because when you pull it up out of the water, it builds up ammonia. And you just pour it straight in there and your plants love it. I mean, look at this thing. It's trying to grow through our roof. Alright, and you do that for all your house plants. You just take another cup of water here, and if you have a lot, so that big one right there, I gave a full cup. Okay. And you'll see over here, that we're growing out pothos. I use fertilizers in these because it's just a glass vase. But these plants here, just take it. Pour some water in there. I got some mini roses over here that could use some water. This guy right here is doing really well. If you can reach it, just pour it in there. Alright, and I even have a cactus here. When was the last time you watered it?
It's been a while.
Okay, so you don't put much in the cactus here. So I'm just going to drop just a little bit down in there. Not much. Okay. And then, if you got outdoor plants, they also can use fertilizer. So you take this bucket. Don't neglect your outdoor plants. All right. Take the bucket with the fertilizer in it. Just give your plants some fertilizer. All right. Same thing here. And then I got a pothos growing over here, which is really crazy, but it's actually growing out here. Alright. Fertilize your plants. With the rest of it, fertilize the lawn. So, I don't want this tree to fall on our apartment. So I give it fertilizer.
Lots of fertilizer.
And that's what you do with the water afterwards. Nothing is wasted. Cut out. All right. pause?
It is.
Okay. So remember, like I said, that if you think you have an overstock tank, or you know you have an overstock tank, inside the substrate there is bacteria that eats detritus. That bacteria also eats the leftover food, that type of thing. Fritz, like I said, they make this stuff here. It's called Fritzime, Monster 360. This is technically made for huge, large fish, but if you read on the back here, it says, and let me find it. It says it's developed for keepers of large species and heavily stocked tanks. So that heavily stocked aquaria includes any tank that is just overstocked. So if you follow the 1 inch rule and you got, you know, a 20-gallon tank and you got 90 inches of fish in there, you probably need this. If you follow the, you know, the stuff off of AQ Advisor and it says that you're at 340% stocked, you probably need this. So I would recommend using this. Follow the instructions. Don't overdose it, because this can, if you put too much in there, cause cloudiness in your water and cause a bacterial bloom. So make sure you follow the instructions to the T. Shake it really well, and it does have expiration dates. So make sure that you are tossing it before by the expiration date. Otherwise, you know, the bacteria is useless. So, but yeah, so that's what this is here. It removes sludge and organic debris, and it's heavily concentrated. I recommend the Monster 360 for anybody that has a fish room that needs to add additional bacteria to the substrate to help remove detritus and leftover food. So that stuff's great. Now we're at the end of the cleaning. So yeah, of course we need to add new water to the tanks. So what do? I got 3 cups here. Okay, I need this clean water. I'm gonna pull out 3 cups of clean water. Okay, 2, 3. Alrighty. Don't need the prime at the moment, but I will need it for our other tanks. I'll just put it down there since it's in the way. Alright, so what do we got here? I'm adding calcium because they are baby fish that are growing, so the calcium here is used to help strengthen their bones and make sure that they grow with really strong bones. So I add in calcium. This is a 20-gallon tank, so I add in exactly 1 gram, and I know exactly how much that is. 1 gram is half a scoop of this, and I measured it out and determined what that was with a gram scale. Reason is because I took out about half of the water, so I'm going to add in, you know, half of the water, but just know that the fish and the snails used the calcium in there. So even though I didn't pull out half the water, I'm still going to add it back as if I did take out half the water. So I just basically take this. I'm going to get a half a scoop here. Half a scoop. Drop it in. Okay. And this is how you take care of your tanks when you're doing the maintenance, of course, for adding back in nutrient stuff. Stir this. This stuff right here is amazing. By the way, this is by Brightwell Aquatics. I've searched for calcium all over the place on what I can use for mystery snails and any snails, and just for the tanks in general. If you need calcium, I recommend this Calcion P. It is highly dissolvable, so it takes about a few seconds and it's already dissolved in the water. It says for marine use, but just trust me that if you monitor your calcium levels using calcium, you know, test kits, you can determine if you have up to 400 parts per million, even higher. But for freshwater tanks, I wouldn't go higher than 120 parts per million, which is about 3 to 6 degrees. So don't go any higher than 6 degrees of calcium. And the only way to know that is if you're testing your water. Okay? So that's Calcion P. Now, Brightwell Aquatics also makes this Carbonate Salts. I was using Fritz Rift Lake Cichlid Buffer, and it works great. Don't get me wrong. I love this stuff, and it was easy. It was just literally the same exact amount I put in every single week for the tanks, just to make sure that the pH maintained at the levels they are. But we ran out, and I wanted to try something new, so I'm trying this Delta KH Plus. And so far, I've had to use less to get the pH up and follow the instructions literally, but you have to do calculations, just so you know. So On here, the instructions say add a quarter teaspoon for 16 ounces. Sit on the couch right so you don't fall off and knock my water off the table, please. Thank you. So every 16 ounces that you have with a quarter teaspoon, okay, with a quarter teaspoon, is going to allow you to use it for 80 gallons. So I needed half that for a 40 gallon, and even more than even half of that for a 20 gallons. So do I want 16 ounces of water? Absolutely not, because I don't want to measure out water. So the easiest way to do it is to reduce the amount of teaspoons. So half of a quarter is an eighth, and half of an eighth is a 16th. So I don't have a 16th of a teaspoon, so I'm just going to use a half of an eighth. So what you do is you just do this, and it doesn't matter how much water you add it into, that's the whole point. Don't go with the water, go with the amount of teaspoons. So you just fill up half of this, all right, you'll see a tap full, drop it in. And I only do this until the water stabilizes and maintains a pH without any intervention. So that tank right there, I don't have to add any more KH into it, because once now it's a fully established tank, the pH as I do the water changes is pretty much stable. It's around 6.8 to 7.2. I'd rather it be 6.8, but that stays at, in between that range. This Delta Fluorine Delta KH by Brightwell Aquatics, also highly dissolvable. Very quick, I mean almost instantly dissolves in the water. Alright, stir that up and that's ready to go. Now the last one here is Equilibrium. Now why do I use Equilibrium? It has calcium in it, it has magnesium in it, and it even has potassium in it. Potassium, so that's the reason why. Or potash, or K2O, I believe. Yeah, so K2O. So that's what's in here. I don't have any way to add that, and this seems to be what has worked the best for us so far. So this helps keep, so it has potassium, so this helps keeps our shrimp happy so they can molt. I add it in every tank, even though we have hard water. So our water here is about 200 to 300 parts per million of dissolved solids. Straight out of the tap, that's crazy, but it's not balanced. It's not balanced because it's missing the potassium in it. So this is what I use to add to it to help balance out the potassium with the calcium, with the magnesium, because our hard water is almost all magnesium. That's why I don't use a lot of this. So how do I know that? Test kits, test kits, test kits. Can't stress that enough. You need test kits. So on this one here, the instructions say that to raise it 3 degrees of hardness, you're going to add in a whole tablespoon. I don't want to raise it 3 degrees of hardness. In fact, I barely want to raise it a degree at all. I just want to add in a little bit of potassium in there to help give a boost to the tank. So what do? So for 20 gallons, it's a full tablespoon for 3 degrees of hardness. So half a tablespoon will be 1.5 degrees of hardness, and half of that, all right, will be, half of that will be less than a degree of hardness. Now that's what I want. So how do I measure that out? The what?
3/4.
Right. So how do I measure that out? I really don't. I just take 1/8 of a teaspoon here. Alright. Put it in. Like I said, I don't need much. Alright, I give it a little boost of potassium for a 20 gallon tank. It'll be a little bit more for higher. And then I stir it. Now this stuff doesn't dissolve as quick. If it touches the bottom of this cup, it sticks. So you got to make sure that you're putting it all in the tank. Now people say to add it to the water, but I've learned that if I pull a bucket of water, add it to the water, I don't end up adding all the water to the tank. Well, then you lose some of that equilibrium. So I add it into a cup and dose the tanks using the cups instead. That way that I can ensure that all of the chemicals that I add in there are actually used in the aquarium. Alright. So that's what I do there. And that's what I use in our aquarium tank here. Now the goal is to fill up the tank with new water. So we have a water pump. Yeah, I plugged it in. That's because we have a little button to push down there. That's what I recommend too. All right. I have tubing here, which is way too long. I haven't cut it because I just don't want to cut it. All right, Braden, I need your assistance here, sir. Go ahead and push the button. All right, and I'm just going to fill the tank. Now, you can see the plants are stuck. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to get all the plants off the glass because I did clean it. All right, use the end to scrape them because some of them are stuck. The aquariums love this, by the way. They sit there and just swim in the current. All right. Put these plants that are stuck on there. Okay. And then once I do that, I just let the water fill up. Now people are like, oh, what about, the substrate getting disturbed? Well, if you do it at the right angle and you have enough water in there, it's not going to get disturbed. So, as you can see, it's not disturbing any of the substrate. But if you have hardly any water in there and you pour it in there, it's going to disturb your substrate pretty bad. So, alright, so when you get down to the bottom of the bucket and you use a pump, and I'll show you the pump here whenever we get the water back in there. Good thing to do is that when you get down to where the pump maybe doesn't work, just tilt it like this and it'll pull even more water out. But I got more water, and this is what I meant by if you put the water in the tank and you put your, your chemicals or whatever it is that's in there, then you may not use it all. Go ahead and hit the button for me, Brent. All right. So, pull this up, and like I said, it's way too long. I'm gonna have to cut this. I was gonna, build it to where it was a, quick release, but I can't find anything that'll work for these tubes. Kind of a bummer. Check it out. Alright, so here you'll see, so this is my pump. This is an AQQA 454 gallons per hour pump. I'm going to tell you right now, it does not do that. It's much slower because of the distance from the ground to the water, ground to the water. Now if it was probably just a tube like this long right here, maybe it'll do that much, but as you can see, I got a like 50 foot or 25 foot tube, so it's pretty long. Now the reason why we have this on here is because there's a blade under here that can rip a fish to shreds. Don't ask me how I know that. So cover it up, use something like this or something, and it keep your fish from dying and getting sucked up in there and turning into paper mache. Alright, so now that we got the water in there, now this is where you take your nutrients and or whatever it is you put in there and you add it to the water. And don't add it in just one place. Add it to places of high flow. Alright, and I always do this. That's because if there's anything left in there, I want to make sure that it actually comes out. And it doesn't matter the order that you put it in there, of course. The one thing about the equilibrium I don't like is that the equilibrium, if you put too much of it, it will cloud your water. And you'll see here, it's a little cloudy, but it's not much because I didn't use a lot. So don't use a lot at a time on the equilibrium. I recommend if you're doing this and you're using equilibrium, and as you can see there's some in there. You use small amounts over an extended period of time. That way your tank has enough time to clear up. All right. And then of course you put your lid back on. And if you've moved your filters, put them back where they belong. Tweezers are good to have. I don't know if I'm using that. Alright, and that's how you do maintenance. Thanks for coming to New Aquatics. You have a wonderful day.